Yes, Steve. How are you doing? Hello, Steve.
Hi, Gerald.
How are you today?
Yeah, I'm okay.
Okay.
I've made you host. I meant to make you co-host. I don't know how to undo that now. No.
I can reverse it. Let me
Oh yeah,
go.
yeah, yeah. Just yeah. So just make you co-host.
Oh, okay.
Mhm.
No, okay. I'm going to make you. Okay, let me first make host. Yeah, sure. It's back to you.
Oh, okay. Oh, oh gosh, hot. How are you? How are you, Gerald?
I'm okay, Steve. How are you doing?
Yeah, okay. Sorry, I couldn't make Wednesday.
Yeah, I realized.
Sometimes life takes over.
Yeah, but which was good. It was good to catch up with those people, and then yeah, their conversations were good.
Hmm.
Yeah, because I think that's the way we need to head. AI and all that. We need to start working on those courses.
Yeah,
There is no better time to do it than now.
I know. It's all a bit overwhelming because there's so much happening right now.
Yeah.
Uh,
Do you think that's something we can involve Darren in?
Darren.
Yeah, because if he can quickly run through now, incorporate the AI into his programming knowledge and everything, should be so easy. So we get the courses created, we do the images.
Yeah, we almost keep having the same conversation and not quite getting further. But he's put his energy into a couple of projects. But one is about he's so interested in
Blockchain.
Ethereum and in the kind of smart contract blockchain thing.
Yeah.
Um, and he has been looking at chat GPT and trying to understand, thinking about all of that. Um, I'm using AI just to edit web pages. I was actually trying to install something to monitor our meeting and take notes, but I think it was blocking some people. Well, there's only you and me here, but someone else I think got a message saying it couldn't come in. Said the app didn't comply with someone's security of their browser. So I'll just tell them that. I just was chatting with um, so I've been speaking to a woman called Helen Stokes. And she said she's an Australian woman and she volunteers in Nachivali refugee settlement. Over the last years, has been with young leaders. All are registered and have CBO or schools. I promote their work and coordinate sponsors, but sponsors and donors are now very difficult to get, as here also inflation is soaring. My connections with permaculture are not very deep. I have worked with Caroline Olang over the years, and her work in Nachivali has been excellent. She does focus on women. Most of the leaders I work with are young males. Refugee women have limited access to internet and phones, and both are needed for work I do there. Right. We have had someone called Roland van Reenen, who I don't know, come to assist in Nachivali permaculture. The problem is for refugees is that most often they do not own land. Seeds are difficult to get hold of, but Caroline Olang has assisted with that. She does need to travel from Kenya to Nachivali as seeds can't be mailed across borders. I'm currently working with 6 leaders, including Rotaract members there. She said, I invited her if she wanted to come and meet with us. She said, better to meet with Caroline in person. I said, I talk to her most days and she knows the situation exactly. And she congratulated us for what we're doing. Said she's always available for consultation. Oh, there's Nicholas. She's always available for consultation. And her final thought was refugees can rent or lease land there. Prices are reasonable. So that's just me putting out feelers really about this UNHCR bid. Oh.
I think then what we could do is to see if even the likes of Caroline, you know, however much with all that backup, however much herself she's not a refugee, but she can see how to apply in that capacity, because how is emphasizing refugee-led.
Yeah.
But then in the cases, maybe she works with the teams and she will be supporting at maybe sort of a consultant level.
Yeah.
So that to fit into the refugee-led context. But then we could see how to do that.
Yeah, because my thought was that when it said refugee-led, that really the refugees need to define the objects of this. To my mind, that they obviously need to define the objectives of the project, so they understand.
Oh, by the way, you can make me co-host so that you can.
Okay, so Andre's struggling to get in, but he's also saying he's tired, so we will record it.
Okay.
For him, which we are doing. Right, hang on. Okay, you are co-host.
Okay.
Okay. I can see that Helen is writing to us a bit more as well, so I'll wait for that. So
we could really have a deeper look into it, and then we can also set up as one of our next sessions, because I think now that what we're going to do going forward is to look at individualized kind of sessions or topical sessions.
We could. I've got someone offering. Okay, hang on. See, before signing off, I did have a great school there with children aged 3 to 13. We have a nutrition food program for kids at school. Currently, I'm finding that, but really, they need to grow the food for this. I will send a recent post we did. Their school director is totally honest, safe, and really wants to train permaculture. Issue is no land at the moment. Please see the posts. So that seems to be a good source. She said so this is all right, she's sending me some links. Helen Stokes, she's Australian, and she's worked in there over several years, and she has a team of people that she trusts 100%. So
and
that might be helpful.
Somehow is she connected to Morag by any chance? Morag Gamble?
Well, there may be an overlap. Yeah, let me just ask her because she's still there. Hang on. Hi, Nicholas. We're just chatting about where we think we should follow on, where we should go next with this. That's really what we're talking about. And we'll wait for the others to turn up. I came up with, I don't know, what do you think of this? Something like that as a project name. And I don't know how it would translate. And we could have it in another language. Or a union or something.
Yeah. So I see it's Refugees United, or yeah. So I can see if I'm reading it, it's Refugees United. Am I
Yes.
correct? Yeah. So on my side here, I can just say it's the group of people that, or a union of people that have come together. The people that stayed together, that came from other countries or other counties here, that are united together or that are staying together as one. So they are staying at a place specifically.
Because with this, I mean, I don't know. I mean, I'm thinking, because in terms of this UNHCR bid, if we're to apply for that, they want to see a refugee-led project. And that we can see that what we've been told is that the funds for food for the World Food Programme are being held back because the price of food is going up really fast. And that is because there's a war in Ukraine, which is the world's biggest wheat field. And I just read today is that so the Canadian prairies, also there's no rain. It's one of the biggest sources of food, and their crop is failing entirely. I read that today. So these are deeply disturbing things to hear. And it's going to affect everybody everywhere. And clearly, I mean, to my mind, it's all about cooperation and support. So you could build a support group within any particular refugee settlement between individuals who are there in the same location. But then there might be groups of individuals in the same refugee settlement but far away. So how do those people relate to each other? And then there are the same things happening in lots of other settlements. So the idea for me is just to have a mutual support network between all of those people who are active, and that it's the priorities and outcomes are defined by the end users, but at the same time, we understand that the organization and communications, that to me makes sense that Sector 39 does that, because we're in a first world country with stable internet and things like that. So
okay, I think that would be something that we can explore instead of having, let's say, Nachivari doing their own. We can have them, with our guidance, do probably one lump sum as a fully consolidated group, and then do subs under it. That way there is a guarantee of, even from a monitoring and evaluation perspective, but even, you know, in terms of quality.
Yeah. Yeah.
Which would be good. And
so I'm getting some all over now. Confusing. Let me get out of that. Right. Yeah. So Simon's just saying he's on his way, and so is Stella.
okay.
Mm-hmm. Oh dear. Okay, well, we'll wait for a couple more people, then we'll go back and look at this thing. I'm aware that we're not all refugees, and this fund is about that, but maybe the process that we might do with them would be repeated by TAPA and other groups. I don't know. It's really difficult to do.
But TAPA is not refugee constituted, like.
Yeah, so this wouldn't fund them unless it might employ them to act as trainers or support people in. Is what I thought. I mean, well, we just have to look at a lot more funds. I mean, I don't know. What I thought, Gerald, is Kakuma is not a million miles away from Permo, Africa. It's quite a long way, but it's not. It's it's in the west, there in the northwest of Kenya.
It's within reach.
Yeah, they're kind of towards Turkana. Yeah. Within reach, and Nachivali is within reach of Kampala. And so therefore, we could use our training hubs and members as part of a network, which, yes, the end users are the refugees. They're the priority people because they're the most vulnerable. But then who's going to actually help them? Who's going to provide them with a bit of extra support? And that extra support coming in from the outside could be the difference between success and failure. And if a team from wherever, but from our existing trainees from within Uganda were able to travel to Nachivali and, do a work camp, to do, sometimes they call it a perma blitz, but if you can get a whole bunch of people together for a few days, you can build something, you can set something up and maybe do some training, do some initiation, do some training, and then build something. And then I think, so the things that, from what I'm being told, what I'm hearing is, people always need tools, they need seeds, they need work boots and things like that. Very simple, I think we have to focus on seed swapping and seed saving as a discipline. People are saying there's trouble to get in.
They don't need to use the email. if the emails are failing, then they can, because on the chat, there are both details, the login, the meeting ID and the password. So even you can go through the online link. Let me try to coordinate with them.
Okay, I'm just in up with Simon. I'll just give him another link to try. I tried running an AI thing, and I don't know whether that set up. Oh, Caroline's there.
Okay, I've seen it. The initial didn't have a link. So maybe for those who are just clicking the link, it takes you. They don't have the app. So this one you generated has the link.
Okay. So just a few updates. Whilst we're waiting for people to arrive and to chatting. So what I just went away on holiday for 4 days because I really needed a break. But I didn't do nothing. One of the things was Stella got sent home from university because she hadn't paid her fees.
Oh, Steve, this is being streamed.
Oh yeah, so we shouldn't say this. Yeah, okay, but whatever. Anyway, we managed to support. We managed to.
You edit it maybe after.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Sorry. Anyway, yeah. So it's everybody's needing support, and what I keep saying to people is, look, we're just teachers. All we can do is give you support and education, but clearly, people need resources, and I think that a function of us is going to have to be thinking about how we, can. We don't need large sums of money, but people are going to need resources to be able to go forward, whether it's for school and education, whether it's for renting land, accessing tools, moving about. All of those things are barriers. And if the World Food Programme is going to be halved, that's going to really hurt people too. So I'm wondering how that's all going to work out.
It's going to be more pressure.
Yeah.
And, wow, certain things, I wish those would be the last options or the last decisions to take.
Yeah.
Because I don't think there are no or idle or redundant budgets they could utilize.
Well, my idea, and I know it's a really bad idea, is let's not have wars and spend all that money on people. Hey.
Yeah.
But then, what do I know?
Okay. Zoom is here.
All right. Oh, there's test phone.
Have let him in.
Yeah, I would hate to upset the politicians now, Caroline, wouldn't I? That would be awful. They like their wars. Chance for everybody to make money. Hi, Tess Fahun, how are you, my friend? We'd love to hear from you. maybe he won't have the bandwidth for talking. I don't know. Anyway.
Let's hold on for a few minutes and
Yeah.
then we can see the likes of Simon probably logging on.
Yeah.
Yeah, but you know, that's the sad reality. Most politicians survive on crisis. Where there is no crisis and anarchy, yeah. But I think one of the sessions we're going to organize, maybe next week or the week after, could be on proposal writing. But then as we do that, we are also generating ideas and guiding members on how to go about this.
Yeah. Hey, really good to hear from you, Tesfahan. We've been following your work very closely. Syntropic agroforestry. It looks fantastic and looked like you've had some success there, and we're quite inspired by that. And we've tried to share your images and discuss what we've seen. So that's been really, really interesting. It's very encouraging to know that, you know, there's nodes of growth, there's people trying things out in different places. Yeah. Okay, there's Simon. And I've just had, we had a nice report from Deborah and Simon, the Tapper, had a meeting since last week, and they sent me a little audio and some pictures from that meeting, and I created a post on the Academy website so that we can see that and we can refer to that. So we're very interested to see that progress. We loved your Lorena stove design, Simon. We've not seen one that shape before, so I wondered how well it draws through it with that shape. But
thank you for your protection, sir. Thank you for your protection. Hi to everyone there.
That's great. Well, I've posted that on the website, so we've got that as a reference, and we can. I think it's very important that we share our outcomes so people can see what's going on, and I'm always encouraged to see, you know, bits of work that you shared, people share each week, and I'm thinking perhaps we ought to, you know, make more of an effort to do that and to use our Academy website so that we've got a record of the work and the progress that we're doing. It serves as a record for ourselves and perhaps might help us win support, but obviously it helps inspire and inform other people who might be wanting to, you know, to learn from us as well. So thank you for that. And it's been obviously difficult to maintain consistent communications to, especially, you know, people scattered out there in Teso. So that was really good, and we've listened to what you're saying, and we'll try and obviously build that into the next phase of the project. As I've said before, I've said to us and for your members to understand is Sector 39 are not funders. We're not sat on money to give out, but if together we can form a plan, that makes us much stronger to go out and ask for that and request for that. And that's what I think our next phase of work should be about. And So a very key idea is on having that feedback, building the evidence of what we're doing, building our network between ourselves, trying to maintain some regular contact because it keeps us, paying attention and moving forward. And I hope we could make some breakthroughs, because I think I still feel like we're building a foundation and something which we want to, be able to build on as we go forward. I guess what we're talking a bit about, but is project development ideas, and whether we can't necessarily, every project can't benefit everybody equally, but at the same time, we want to work in a way in which, which our network becomes more active and stronger.
It's okay.
Yeah. Is it correct to say that Paul is near Rangwe, Gerald? Just as a chap from Homer Bay here, reaching out for help, and I'm trying to think about where he might be.
Not so certain. Caroline should be more supportive.
Yeah, I should know. Just get the map up.
She's dropped off. Let me look at the map.
Okay, yeah. Yeah, kind of, yeah. It's quite big, isn't it? It's a big county. Yeah, that's kind of the area.
It looks to be all more of Homer Bay.
Yeah, Homer Bay town, maybe. And this guy's got 3 acres of land, and he wants to know if people can work with him.
That would be great to connect him with Paul.
Yeah, that's what I was just thinking.
And maybe to borrow a leaf from Tesfahum, Syntropic.
Yeah.
That way he can use it to scale.
Yeah. Anyway, I don't know. People are funny. Huh. All right, I'm getting out of that conversation. I'm getting out of Facebook. Sorry. Is this a thing? Is this so? This guy's not very trusting. So as soon as I said you could work collaborate, I don't know. There's a clarity thing here, isn't it? We have to manage people's expectations. That's someone I don't really know. It's a problem with Facebook because you end up with all these random chats. Okay.
The thing could be to probably introduce them and then let them guide the process, or alternatively to show that this is purely kind of a consultancy relationship.
Yeah.
Otherwise, sometimes corroboration is something wide.
It really is, isn't it? Okay, so again, it's slight frustration, but I guess it's the reality. So this is our learning. In terms of this PDC, I've tried very hard to step by step to build our consensus. We've really focused on the ethics. I've kept going back and referring to the sort of foundational ideas, and then somebody hops in on episode 23 and says, "Oh, I don't know how to trust people." It's like, well, we've just spent 6 months building that trust, and now you just walked in at the end. So how do we do that? And the reality again of teaching in this way is it's been really hard to have the consistency as if you've got everybody in the room. So we've obviously got a few people who've been for the whole journey, but a lot of people are just dipped in and out. So and then they want individual attention to be filled in on what they've missed. And it's like, well, we don't have the time for that. So that's also been, the learning of this. I mean, don't get me wrong, I think this has been an amazing journey, and I think we've created some really good resources, and I've learned a lot. But in terms of now how we create a support network, probably, Joe, we just want quite a small hub group. I just keep going back to the bioregional organizational chart. I think that's our way forward, or, a version of that. And I'm thinking about, so I listened to your audio, Simon, to hear your voice on that, and Deborah and the others. And also thinking, yeah, I understand that. Again, you've got the same issue there in Teso, is only a few people, such as yourself and Deborah, have done the full PDC. And in fact, even then, you weren't able to do it in 2020 because of COVID-19. You've now been able to have a lot of the content online, so that's been great. And then other members of your group, they've had almost nothing, and they feel left out or, left behind. Yeah? Yes? Yeah? Hello? I'm upstairs. I'm teaching. Sorry. Visitor. Yeah.
All right. So as Steve comes back, I think one of the things we will appreciate, first of all, we'll thank people, because this is session 24, and the consistency, but also we'll look forward, or even as Steve said earlier, when we start seeing evidences like the Lorena stop coming in, being localized, when we start seeing all this feedback, that's a gauge of also how much has been achieved. That's the best way we can have that feedback, or a gauge. Otherwise, as Steve said, it's been a learning curve for all of us, including ourselves, from a facilitation point of view. And then we appreciate that it's also been having lots of ups and downs, things to do with time zones, things to do with internet connectivity and data. Yeah, all of which, as we always say, behind each and every problem, let's flip it and see a solution in it. Yeah, what you, Steve?
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, so I've been away a few days, so my neighbours were coming around and checking on me. So the theme for this week is back with Principle 12, which is about change and which is about how we move forward. And I titled the session "Change is a Force for Transformation," because, you know, I'm coming home on the train just today, looking on my phone at all the messages, and here in the Northern Hemisphere, we're having suddenly really strong climate effects, and it's quite scary. There's been massive fish die-offs, big crop failures, horrendous fires. British Columbia and Alberta have been on fire in Canada and the east of Canada, Quebec, Nova Scotia. I mean, this is unheard of. The city of New York was completely zero visibility last week because of the smoke from the fires in Canada, hundreds of miles away. These are and even in the UK now, we're starting to experience drought, and we're not prepared for it. We're a high rainfall country, so we waste water a lot. Our ecology expects it to be humid and moist, and households and individuals, we use water very wastefully. And we're going to have to change, and we're going to have to learn. And the problem with people in the West is we just see everything as a problem of money. We just pay more, you know, bring it in from further away. But it's not the solution. We have to change our behaviors. Those of us that have realized that this is where we're going and it's not going to go away are kind of ahead of the game. We have to simplify our lives. We have to need much less external inputs to go forward. That's, and again, this is a very big lesson for us in the West because we lead profligate, wasteful, resource-intensive lifestyles, and we think it's our God-given right to do so. People can't question it. They don't think of it in the right terms. So I think it's going to be very challenging times for the first world because, as I say, we're just not prepared for it. And we're experiencing the ecological stress of the planet. We experience as economic stress. Price of food goes up, price of energy goes up, price of transport goes up, price of borrowing money goes up. And so that affects us in economic ways, but actually that's because of environmental factors, really. So we're not even understanding what's happening to us. Those of us who are already living a sort of a more simple, less resource intensive life is a much more streamlined. And so in some ways there's an advantage there. Because you're not going to try and maintain these very unsustainable systems, which is what we're still trying to do here in the West. So there's a very, very big learning that we're going to have to take on board. And we're not used to food being expensive. In my lifetime, food's been very cheap and very abundant. And the UK imports nearly half of its food from other countries. And when there are shortages, countries stop exporting food. So big, big, big challenges are coming our way. What we've learned as we've gone through this PDC is that together we're stronger. integrate rather than segregate. That means cooperation, means working together as communities, but also communities connecting to other communities and finding ways in which we can have mutual support. I think one of the things that we most need to do for mutual support is seed swapping and seed saving and seed swapping. Some plants are very easy to save seeds from, some are more difficult. We need to start with the easy ones, and we need to actually start to build our own mutual support network. And that means between communities all over. And if we can't support each other with physical resources, we might have to support each other with information, with encouragement, with, in whatever way we can. And together with that, we might be able to go out and compete to win resources such as funding and so forth. Understand. So if the world has to go through a transformation, that needs leaders. And that's why we've done some sessions on permaculture and leadership, because permaculture is not about top down telling people what to do, but when people don't know what to do, it takes organizing so that people can be effective, and we're not wasting our time being angry at the system that's breaking down, or putting our energy in the wrong places. You have to be strategic. That's what we're going to have to do. So each of us, in our own small way, should see, maybe a leader's a wrong word because it sounds a bit hierarchical, but you know what I mean. It's about taking responsibility, having the initiative to set something in motion, and the consistency to make that happen. So, and all of you, looking at your faces here on the screen, all of you are doing that in your own way, in your own communities. So that's the process that I think we have to build on. And if we remember, in our 9 areas in the bioregional organizational map, that the first one was food, because food's the most fundamentally important thing. And I think water probably has to go in with that, because you can't grow food without water. So we need to start thinking strategically about building support groups around ourselves, around seeing ourselves as an organizer. Can we initiate a food support group? Now that's happening in Tapa, it's happening there in Teso, for example. And we've seen all sorts of progress with that. But let's think now about what that next step is. And that's what I felt I was hearing in the message that you sent me this week. People said we need more training. We need, better organization. And clearly you need some resources as well. So but that has to go on. It's not just food that we need. It's shelter, it's livelihood, it's health, it's communications, it's transport, it's whatever the other ones were. Now, some might feel and perhaps are a little bit more important than others, but for the long-term success, you need to pay attention to all of those things. Test for Hood, it's nice to see you. Would you like to contribute?
Hello?
Hello. How are you, my friend?
I am fine. Are you hearing me?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. Can I shut my video, or can I off my video, because sometimes the connection directly trackled,
Okay, sure.
Okay. Yes, everything is okay here. I'm going with syntropic agroforestry concept and with permaculture still now. Things are nice here. And also always I need to join you on such kinds of video. And also always I am free, to communicate with all of my team with regard to this course. And
Yes.
also I am lucky today to join you. Really, I'm happy. Some days it makes me to be delayed with regard to some financial case, but I don't worry about that. Always I'm joining and also seeing the video on YouTube, because sometimes after your presentation, even after your presentation, but I am trying to join this like on Zoom, but it is I haven't got. Sometimes when you come to online, ask you password. That makes me too late. So I join always on YouTube, and I'm happy to be with you. Just for the point of integration or interaction rather than the segregate, I come to you with that of the principles of syntropic agroforestry. I'm happy to share a little bit for that with syntropic agroforestry. Can I say something?
Please do. Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you for giving this chance for me to be here. Let us, according to the philosophy of syntropic agroforestry, you have to know that nature always strives to syntropy. That means when let I say something about succession, that succession is the tendency to develop from simple to complex, to the so-called stage of abundance. As a simple example would be that nature in the tropics strives to evolve from desert into tropical rainforest. So through the process of succession, plant life moves towards species that are capable of capturing and handling more and more energy. So let I say some principles of that of syntropic agroforestry. They are always based on 5 main principles. Like that of permaculture always depends on these 12 main principles. This syntropic agroforestry depends on 5 main principles. In a permaculture, we say mulching. Here in syntropic agroforestry, it says keep the soil always covered. That means no bare soil. It's principle 1. We cover the soil with stick, hay, wood chips, or anything that once has lived and with densely planted crops. So as we know, the function of mulch are the heavy use of organic material as wood branches, leaves, dry grasses, seaweeds to cover the soil. That's protect the soil from evaporation and drying out. Also, the mulch keep the soil from evaporation and drying out. As I mentioned, keep the soil longer moist. And when it cools the earth down, so that water can never taken easily from the soil. That means also it prevents the loading of water. It prevents erosion and attracts our restless farmers, what we call it the soil microorganisms that causes the soil aerations. This difference principle of that of syntropic agroforestry. The second one is maximization of photosynthesis. Photosynthesis is, as we know, it is the process in which the main source of energy, that means sunlight, which is transformed into life itself, sugars, oxygen, and the cooling down effect. So the more photosynthesis is, the more energy for plants, the more life. And also then we get the more harvest. In other words, syntropy instead of entropy. That means syntropy instead of entropy means instead of monoculture. So we have to make it multiculture or polyculture. The science of knowing the optimal dose of sunlight for trees and the crops to achieve the best photosynthesis process is the base for the maximization of it. Some fruit trees need 100% of sunlight like the coconut. Some needs 80% like the mango. Others need 60% like soursop, and again, others need 40% of sunlight like citrus, and some just need 20% like cacao, coffee. So from the higher to lower, we have to arrange, we have to put them in order, how much the sunlight they need. So we put the, it by itself. They can put the cooling effect on the soil. That brings or that covers the soil. So indirectly, we already planted the water to the soil. That means let us focus a bit more on what is caused by too much carbon, which is largely caused by industrialization, traffic and industrial agriculture generally. Large area of the bare land. We know. In the process of photosynthesis, this carbon is transformed into energy in the form of sugars, and thus causing global cooling, which is good for our planet in general, but also for our syntropic farm. The densely planted canopies of our crops cause a cooling down factor, which has a very positive effect on the humidity of that of farm. The cool surface of the leaves let evaporated water vapor condensate and form drops of water that will fall down as a secondary form of precipitation. So we literally plant water this way indirectly. The second one is next to maximization of that of photosynthesis. The third one is stratification. The first is mulching, no bare soil or mulching. The second one is maximization of photosynthesis. The third one is stratification. This is to achieve this maximization of photosynthesis called the first described technology to achieve this maximization is called stratification. Stratification has a lot to do with our choices in planting crops and trees. Because of the love of shade, we can plant a lot of low strata crops. At last, 80% of the bed we can use a low strata crops of trees. In a bed of 10 meters, we can plant about 8 low strata trees, and in a bed of 1 meter, we can plant at least 8 vegetable crops. In a bed of 1 meter, we can plant at least 8 vegetable crops. That means in a low strata or under the tree, we can plant that means the low temperature levels. That means in which crops will be ground, which crops can love low heat or low temperature. So under the stratification effect. So, for example, here at last 80% of bed we can use for low strata crops of trees. In a bed 10 meter, we can plant about 8 low strata trees, and in a bed of 1 meter, we can plant at least 8 vegetable crops. This is with low strata crops for or under the shade of the trees. So medium is good for 60% of occupation, 6 crops per meter square, high for 40% or 4 crops per meter square, emergent 20% of the space is 2 crops per meter square. For example, what we call emergent is the higher one who are the sun-loving. For example, might be the coconut, might be Gravella robusta, which are the very long one. But under it, we can plant some vegetables, which are the shade lovers. Is it clear? I'm sorry. Hello?
That's good. This is very interesting.
Yeah. So The fourth one is succession. So let I say something about succession. It is so the fourth one of the fourth principle of syntropic agroforestry is succession. Let I say something. Succession is the knowledge that in the formation of forests, one plant variety is succeeded by the other. We imitate this in our production of crops. So radish, after which is 3 up to 4 weeks, succeeded by cucumbers after 5 up to 6 weeks, succeeded by melons or watermelons 6 or 7 weeks, succeeded by okra and corn after 8 weeks, succeeded by eggplants that can keep producing until the cassava gets ready. The cassava will be succeeded by papaya and the banana until they will be succeeded by the fruit other trees. That will be succeeded by timberwood. That means pupils through succession can get in each month, they never lack their own food. In each and every month, they will have got their own food. All the time. 0 weeks, 0 months, 0 year. So they will have total year, they will have food from their own garden. This is in syntropic agroforestry, the concept of succession. Until they will be succeeded by the fruit trees, that will be succeeded by timberwood. And through the year, they will go their own food. That means in this whole line of succession is planted the one and the same time. So there is no need to waste energy in plowing and waiting for crops to be ready with the same amount of water as for a single crop. That's the point. The final one is the final Abba. Yes.
Please, sir. May I ask you a question?
Yeah.
Sorry to interrupt you. This is really, really interesting. I just wanted to understand more clearly. You said there were 5 principles.
Yeah.
And the first one was mulching, protecting the soil, no bare soil. Yeah.
Yeah.
And the second one was about layers and the strata, yeah?
Yeah, maximization of photosynthesis. The second one is
maximization of
photosynthesis.
Sorry, say it again.
Maximization of photosynthesis.
I'm just trying to make a note so that we can all have to look at this. Maximization of I still haven't got it.
Okay, maximum
photosynthesis.
Photosynthesis.
Yeah.
Got it. And then it was layers and strata. Was it?
Photosynthesis.
And then succession.
The another one is stratification. The third one.
Yeah. Got it. And then succession, and then the last one.
The fourth one is succession.
Yeah, got it. And then number 5. Number 5.
The fourth one is succession. The fifth and the final is management. That is the best important.
Okay, I've got you now. Thank you.
Yeah. So management, it is to speed up the process by pruning, to pump up the system with biomass, to keep the stratas in place and to harvest. It's the final one. So always, this many vegetables planted under the shade can't give the yield due to the shade with the biggest trees. So we have to manage continuously by pruning those trees. Always. we have to manage the trees by pruning continuously. So just already I finalize and also make clear for you, I think, the concept of syntropic agroforestry principles. Thank you for your follow-up. All, I think this is enough for now. Yeah.
Hey, that's fantastic. I've made some notes, and so we saw your lines of the plantings. We saw those photos you shared with us. So is your garden? So we've got planted in a strip and then another one. So is it going to slowly move forward, or are we staying in the same place? But as we're adding it, are we building? The garden's going to become wider. Does that make sense?
Yeah. This is also connected with permaculture concept, like companion planting.
Yeah.
Because just we interfere that of the concept of that means the insects directly come in because they are directly disturbed with the different types or variety of crops in the same place. They will be complicated with the variety of trees and vegetables under it. So no more disease, no more pests. Yep.
Okay, so can we see this?
Yes.
So we're seeing now, this is moringa.
Yeah.
And then we're seeing underneath where you started to build the mulch layers, yeah?
Yeah.
Okay, and already the birds are coming to enjoy the pickings.
Yeah.
And so now there's a bit more shade on the soil, protecting the soil.
Exactly.
Yeah. I think I had some photos of yours as well. This is just one bit of video you shared with us. And then I can see your understory. Your cabbages are there.
Yeah, exactly. They start harvesting squash, cabbage from here.
Okay. And we've got something on here on this side.
Yeah.
Okay, that's wonderful just to see that. So we looked at that on our lesson 16. just trying to see if I can find your other photos you shared with us. Well, anyway, okay, all right. Thank you very much for that.
Thank you.
I think I really like the idea of this succession process, and that you're working it all the time. And so I like your 5 principles. It's very focused. And I think that this can't be said too much. This was the first one with the mulching and the protecting the soil. And especially in hot climates, it's so vital. And I just see so many people send me photos of their gardens, and I just see bare soil with a tiny little plant trying to get established in it. And I always want to make that point. So let me ask you some questions. Do you find sometimes that the mulch becomes a habitat for potential pest species? Are there some negatives to using mulch? Some problems which you've experienced?
What?
Has there sometimes using the mulch to cover the soil? Are there some negative impacts of that? Have you experienced? And I'll say, in our climate, we have slugs, and they will destroy your baby plants, and they love to hide in the mulch.
Okay. That, for example, it might be in a cold season. Might be in a cold season.
Yeah.
The mulches which are not decayable are not that much recommended. But we have to use always the decomposted or composted materials, which will be composted. For example, the grass clippings are easily composted, no problem, not much problem. Yeah. And also the straw are easy to be composted. Yep.
Yeah, that's good. Thank you.
Yeah. Here, Caroline add some points with regard to termites. So she adds some points. Yeah, she is. I think she is disturbed with termites. So with regard to termites, you have to plant some lemongrass nearby or surrounding it. Yeah, they don't love lemongrass that much.
Okay, that's really good feedback. It's really great to see your design and the work that you're doing, Tesla, and I can see you're learning fast and you have a real enthusiasm from it. So this is really great.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, I've just added those notes to our page.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, if I could compliment Tesfahu.
Please.
And, appreciate. I liked the eloquency and then the confidence and, the fact that he's taken this on. And now he's, at the level of fully taking on the training. As one of the sessions to come next, I hope we'll have a session he will be leading on, specifically on syntropic agriculture. And then also, it gives us another point to think about, or school of thought, that as we go about, flexibility is key and localization is key.
Exactly.
So probably you observe and interact. You look at the, let's say, at the design, which design could be the project or the area in which you're operating. Localize however much you have it as permaculture, but then the context that is fit for that specific environment is syntropic or agroecology or agroforestry. Let's, have that kind of approach also incorporated, especially for the teams that are looking to take this forward as not, just as practitioners, but also as trainers, as consultants. That also comes in key. However much we could know that these bits of permaculture, yeah, because permaculture is really, really wide. But if you realize that the environment in which you're going to operate is calling for that, quickly adapt and take it, from that point. Thanks, Tesfahum, and we look forward to. Over to you,
Thank
Steve.
you, Gerald.
Okay.
Thank you, Gerald.
Steve, over to you, unless anyone else has a question or.
Well, I'm just putting in the notes there. Just firstly, is in this session, this final session of the PDC, to actually get the feedback of people's real experience is really, really valuable. So, and you sent us some videos, some pictures already, so we could really understand what you were saying there, Tessa. And I think going forward, I like the idea of us offering a session just on a particular topic. And this would be a really good one to work on. So that's something which we could plan together and then deliver in a few weeks' time. And just because the other thing that's happening is we're having lots of people coming along who haven't followed the whole PDC, but they just say, oh, can you help me? Or, oh, we want to do this. And I don't know quite how to help those people. But I think by having a very focused, narrow session on a particular topic is a good way forward. Now, we've had someone called Elijah, who's in Nachivali, who wants to offer us a mushroom growing workshop, and he's done a few of those and had some experience with that. So that's another one I'd like to sort of add to the list. Things that are relatively easy for us to do and are very, very practical. And I'm also seeing the Lorena stoves that they've really specialized in Tapa, and seeing how that's having such a fantastic impact as well. So it's another thing that we could focus just on one thing and create a lesson which can be live, but also we can record and share and create a resource for it. And I think that might be a good way of using our academy and showing, teaching directly from our experience. So I'd be really interested to think what other, are small topics we might want to focus on, and I'm keen to think about that. So, has anybody else got some feedback from their own experience that they might like to share? We've lost Tesla now. Oh, okay, that was good to have him though. Yeah, Simon, please.
Yes, now here, what I could say basically is to share something on the oyster mushroom growing. I don't know basically how time can allow us I discuss on that matter.
Well, just give us some initial experiences if you have. That's great.
Yes. oyster mushroom can be easily grown up with the local materials that one would basically produce from his farm. So here majorly we can get a planting material which is usually called a spawn. And that spawn is usually prepared in cultural laboratories, and it can be at two shades. One of the incubation or the spawn run. The spawn run should be warm 25 degrees to 28 degrees centigrade. Clean and free from rodents. It should be clean and free from rodents, because you know the action of the rodents is a bit destructive to such kind of delicate things. And the shade the shade should be a bit dark in place. It should be dark in place. And one of the cropping of the fractalization, let me say, one of the cropping should be well ventilated, cool. It should be well ventilated, cool, at a temperature of 18 to 25 degrees centigrade. And the humidity of 75 to 90 degrees, and with the light in it. Then definitely we shall go on the process of mushroom growth. The other third step I can say is about the substrate. These are organic materials, one, which the mushroom are grown should be any for the following crops and agro-industrial residues: wheat straw, rice straw, maize stover, millet straw, the barley straw, the cotton seed hull, the cotton waste gaining, the sisal waste, legume trash, sugarcane trash, and then the dry banana leaves, and then the maize cobs. Those are locally obtained. They are locally obtained. And then the step 4 I can talk about is the plastic bags. Should be 3 to 4 kilogram capacity, black or transparent. Black or transparent. And then the drum or a boiler for pasteurizing the substrate by boiling or steaming it, because we are to steam it for some time and then we pack it. And there we raise rocks or trays, preferably of wire mesh, on which to drain the pasteurized substances as it cools. And then strings in the plastic bags after which filling with the substrate. So the procedure is procedure 1. After gathering all those steps that I've talked of, and then the other procedure is 1, soak or wash in water. You soak and wash the substrate in water, and then boil or steam for 2 hours or 4 respectively, the maize straw, the wheat straw, the sugar trash, and the maize combs should be combed or crushed before they are boiled or trimming. Hang out the substrate on a raised rock so that the water drips out until only 70% moisture is remaining, and the substrate should cool to 35 degrees centigrade or below that in order to maximize the process. Remove the spawn from the bottle onto a clean plate. Using a clean fork, if the spawn is sticky together, use a clean finger to cram it into into a granule form. Yes? Are we together, members? And then fill the substrate into plastic bag at the same time, adding a spawn layer to layer. Adding spawn layer to layer. The other step I can say is when the bag is full, seal and press into a regular shape. And then keep it incubation. Keep in incubation room. That incubation room should be in a shade format. And then at temperatures of 25 to 28 degrees, at least for 3 weeks. During this time, the malaria from the spawn grew and colonized the substrate. The longer the spawn one period, the better the yield. When the bags are fully colonized, transfer to cropping room in brackets shed, which is cooler, more ventilated, more humid, and with light. Make holes or in the plastic bag or remove plastic completely within 4 to 7 days after ending the spawn. After ending the spawn, run paid heads. The run heads should start appearing on the substrate. This will grow into a moisture mushrooms. In another 3 to 4 days, harvest the mushrooms before they shed spores, i.e. when the cup is still curved. When the cup of the mushroom is still curved downwards, if the cup is filtered out or curved upwards, it is over mature now. It is over matured by that time now. So they have lost quality and have shortened shelf life. Furthermore, it has a shed spores and lost weight. Spores may cause algae to some people. The spores sometimes can cause algae to some people. After harvesting, mushrooms should be cleaned up, cutting off the end of the strip and then packed loosely in plastic containers. Meanwhile, the condition in the cropping shed should be maintained to allow another flesh of mushroom. On average of 6 flesh should be expected from the bag. Cut can go up to 10. In total, the yield of mushroom should be at least 25% of the weight of the substrate, but can go up to 75%. In other words, for 4 kilograms of substrate expected in 1 kg to 3 kilograms of fresh mushroom. So in mushroom production locally, one can make a spawn locally through developing it from the millet. That is the localized way of getting mushrooms. Though the mushroom, the spawn itself is a bit expensive to purchase it from the agricultural centers, majorly, where it has been produced. It is a bit expensive, but in a local way that I know, we can get or we can develop our own spawn through the fermentation process of germinating the millets. And then after germinating the millet, we grind it. Then after grinding, by the time you make the substrate, you then apply it direct onto the substrate, then mix it up, hang it, and then hide it for 3 to 4 weeks. Mushrooms will begin developing. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Simon, for that. that's really, really helpful. And I just was looking at online for a few things. So these are oyster mushrooms. There's different kinds. There's a yellow gold, a blue gray, a king oyster mushroom, a white elm mushroom. So what we're understanding is, so as mushrooms mature, they generate spores in their gills, and they can be many millions of tiny microscopic spores, and they need to land on, to use your word, Simon, on a substrate. So the substrate is what if you imagine the spore as being like a seed, that lands on the substrate, which is its food. So you talked about boiling the substrate. So it's very important that you're going to inoculate something that doesn't have another kind of fungus or mushroom growing in it already. So that's why you want to sterilize it through boiling, and then you add and then the spores, once they started to germinate, that's what becomes then the spawn. And that's what you need to inoculate your substrate with. And the spawn, which is just the very baby, the first beginnings threads of the mycelium, that is quite fragile. So what I'm reading here is, it says, how long does the spawn last? The biggest factor in successfully preserving your spawn are the storage conditions you plan to keep the spawn before use. So it talks about refrigeration to extend its shelf life. And depending on if it's on grains or sawdust or pieces of wood, the times can be between 1 to 4 months. But that's when it's refrigerated, and that's obviously not everybody has access to that. And so that's going to be a limiting factor. And it says mycelium is extremely sensitive to temperature, and heat poses the biggest threat to the quality and longevity of the spawn. So it'll begin to grow in warmer conditions, and there'll be a reduction in quality if you're not inoculated into your substrate. So you can propagate your own spawn. But again, the point that you made, Simon, which is very, very clear, which is you've got to be really clean, because you're just trying to promote one particular kind of mushroom, your oyster mushroom. And if you're not careful, because mushroom spores are in the air everywhere, you'll end up with something will go rotten or bad, or you get the wrong kind of mushroom. So it's a lot about the cleanliness and having the process set up. I think with a lot of these things, the challenge is to set up the process. And once you've managed to do that, it can then become an ongoing thing. So we've all got a lot to learn on each one of these topics. That was a really great introduction, Simon. And I'm going to have to think about building the understanding of our students and our members so that they can firstly have a successful growing and then be able to pass that on to other people. So anyway, just that's very, very good. And I'm just really interested to hear people's own experiences.
Yeah. With the oyster mushroom, we have got around 3 to 4 types of oyster mushroom, but it depends on the type of spawn that you will use to develop it. That is what I forgot to say. It depends on the type of the mushroom that you use for developing it, and then you will produce the one that you need. Basically, this one, the one I'm talking is basically on the white one. And then there is the other one which is a bit brown. There's that one which is also brown. You go for the spawn which will give you that plant which is brown. it depends on the type of a spawn that you will use. It is the one to guide you to produce the type of mushroom that you would use. Yes.
Anyway, okay, very interesting. So, are you able to preserve these through drying? Do they maintain themselves if you can dry it, Simon?
Yes, to drain it. Yes, I can do it. And that is the thing. I'm first of all going to begin with Tapa here. I want to give them the knowledge such that the knowledge will be spread to the communities. It is that I'm trying to organize the resources for that development of the mushroom. Then immediately after I have developed it out, that's when I will forward it to every member, all the steps.
Yeah.
I am still just gathering them.
Okay, well, we might be able to get some more information from this guy, Elijah, who has some experience as well. So really great if we can build conversations around these key topics. And as you have experience, again, it's something which we could do here in the UK. I could try doing a batch here at home, and we could share our experiences. Yeah, really great. And look how it fits our principles so well, because we're getting a high value, nutritious crop from what might otherwise be waste materials. And obviously the mushroom breaks those materials down and then gives us compost, which again we can feed into our syntropic agroforestry system. So try to think about how all of these things can fit together. I'm really interested in what you were saying, Tesfahan, about paying a lot of attention to maximizing photosynthesis and also the layering in your forest system, because again, with our enhanced climate challenges, I think shading and beneficial relationships within growing systems, we're going to have to pay a lot of attention to that, because systems will get more stressed with whatever exaggerated weather patterns. So I'm very interested in that, and well, also what I'm learning from you is it's that attention to detail. So I think here I'm guilty here in the West. I set up systems because I want to see them, I want them to work and learn from them, but I'm always moving on to the next thing. So it's that consistency and paying attention to the detail and the maintenance. And in the whole yes, please, Simon.
Yes, basically when we come into agroforestry, we are a bit challenged with some pesticides that cause the quick decaying and the rotting of the organic matter that we use for our mulching processes. So when it comes to that dry time there, where you want to maximize during the time that you need to maximize the moisture content in the soil, but again you find that you are disturbed by the micro living organisms like the rodents, like the termites, that eat up the mulches very quick, and then really it makes you to fail to maximize the moisture content in the soil during the dry time. And that's why sometimes most of the trees here, though they conserve water for their use, they shed it all off, and then a bit the rotting process there. It is a bit challenging to kill the micro living organisms that are useful to the soil, though you want to promote one element of maintaining it. It becomes a bit tricky and challenging. So we try our level best to see that which are some of these bit hardy materials that we can use to for mulching, that termites can work on it for a long time or for a long period of time before they decay during the dry time. That is where there is a bit kind of challenge when it comes to dry time of mulching. It becomes hard because of the system that the soil has gotten with those pesticides.
Yeah.
So I don't know how can we go with them during that dry time?
Well, that's a very good point. I would like to hear contributions from other people. One thing that Tessa Hun said was using aromatic plants like lemongrass. There are other ones too, herbs, that sometimes discourage the termites. There's a thought. Remember, in some ways, your mulch breaking down and being broken down by the action of arthropods is also releasing nutrients to the soil. So rather than seeing, so yes, you're losing your moisture retention, but it is also feeding the soil because those materials are being broken down. So that's a positive. You can use things for mulches that don't biodegrade. You can use stones. You can use, I don't know, the things that you might have to hand, which don't biodegrade, but they still are covering the soil. So the best kinds of mulch are either living plants, dead plants, dead organic matter. Yeah, thank you, Gerald. Tithonia. Is that an aromatic herb?
It's a widely occurring sort of plant.
Yeah.
And it's very common in even in eastern Uganda. I think we've seen this. It's usually by the roadsides. It has a big yellow kind of flower.
Oh, I know it. Yes, it is. Yes.
Yeah, with slightly broader leaves.
Hey,
We've successfully used things like bark and sticks, stones, gravel, broken glass. Maybe that's a bit wasteful, but certain materials, because the one function of your mulch is to reduce evaporation from the soil surface. And if you remember when we looked at our lesson on forest, in forest systems, there is zero evaporation from the forest floor. So you have to understand how stressful it is to soils when they're exposed to the full sun. So one way we can achieve this, Simon, is by having a tree layer, a shrub layer above our understory. So Tesfahan talked about in his principles was the shading, using the layering effect so that you can control the amount of sunlight that's hitting the floor. You want enough to make your understory plants grow, but not so much that the soil is drying out. And with all of these things, as we become more experienced, we realize we're going to use a combination of factors, a combination of strategies, having the layers so that that adds a shading effect to the floor, different kinds of mulches, different kinds of green manures, different kinds of aromatic herbs, all of which help create the more ideal conditions. We're trying to tip things in favor of our chosen outcomes. We're not trying to get rid of the termites or the ants. They're part of the system, but we don't want them to take over because we're trying to find a balance. So I think those are our key thoughts there. But so this is all very interesting stuff, and I think as we this kind of discussion on topics, I think we'll all find really useful, and give us a chance to to learn and deepen our knowledge of the practical application of permaculture. I brought you through the PDC. We've looked at the theory, we've looked at the patterns, we've looked at ethics, we've looked at the values, and now we're going to sort of channel in and focus on how we're going to use all of those things for very specific processes. Thank you for that, Deborah. So yes, Tithonia is available there in Teso also. Many of those aromatic plants with the strong pungent smells, they can be repelling or confusing to insects. It's overwhelming for them. And so we could think about how we can incorporate those into our systems. And part of the learning is to value the non-productive species. You're not going to eat that. That's not part of what the yield for you, but it's part of the system for pest control or balancing out different factors. So that again that's part of our learning, and part of our challenge is to value the contribution that different elements make to the ecological system that we're building. Yeah, right. Karen said she's seen people using old clothes, paper bags. We have a lot of cardboard in the waste stream here, packaging for food, imported things, and if we go to a retail center, we can usually get hold of quite a lot of cardboard and use that as a mulch. Again, it breaks down quite quickly, but it can really serve a purpose. I mean, you wouldn't believe it, but we have a lot of sheep here, and sheep have to be shorn to take the wool off in the winter and in the summer because obviously it's too hot, and there's almost no market for that. And so sometimes we can go to a farm and get sheep's wool and use that as a mulch. So it's about looking around and seeing what might be available in your area. But even things like stones can provide a protection to the soil. They can still allow rainfall in, and the plants can grow up in between them, but we're not exposing that sensitive surface few inches of soil to the really hot sun. All our central lesson is keep coming back to the idea of the soil is alive. Your objective as a farmer, not really, Caroline, no, everything's made out of synthetic fabrics, and it's a lot of energy to process and clean the wool. Instead we have things out of nylon, cotton and things, so not so much. It's crazy, it's nuts. But we're just a terribly wasteful society, and we're going to have to learn. And one of the things that I teach a lot here in the UK is for people to value the things that we have around us. For us, somehow, if we haven't imported it from halfway around the world, we don't want it. We don't want what's here already. Leaves off trees is good mulch. It's a matter of looking around, and also you can grow plants for the purposes of creating mulch. And vetiver is a good example of that, because if you crop it quite aggressively, then you get good regrowth. And the vetiver leaves are quite tough and durable, and they make a good lasting mulch. Tesfahun is reminding us, you said garlic, cinnamon, vinegar. These are things with strong smells, aromas, odors, and a soap and water mix. Especially if we have a special tree that we're trying to establish. we've planted some mangoes, we've planted some avocados, we've planted some neem or some moringa, whatever. If that's a special plant, we can give that some extra attention and treat the area around to support the mulch. Now remember, we want the insects and the microbes to be busy, but we want to find a balance so it doesn't get broken down too quickly. So that's very interesting feedback from you, Simon, and it makes us think about how we can work with this as an ongoing process. And the reminder that even if the mulch is breaking down, it's still contributing a lot to the soil. Biochar, people. Remember, biochar, if you've made it well, it's completely inert. That means it does not break down and it doesn't react with other things. It just sits there. So again, that might be part of our topsoil mix, and that might help contribute in other ways as well. I don't know, but I'm thinking out loud. But see how there's the pattern is cover your soil, understand the value of mulch. But the detail is, in my area, the mulch gets eaten by termites. What can I do? So we're learning how to manage that, thinking about aromatic plants, thinking about different approaches to mulching, understanding the shading and different ways of protecting your soil as well. All of these are important. So there's never just one way to do something. There's many ways, and you're going to find the ways that speak to your locally available resources, that meet the needs of your particular location. It's going to be slightly different for Tesfahan than it is for you, Simon, or it is for you, Deborah, or you, Nicholas, wherever you are. So this is permaculture is giving us the approach and then a range of techniques. Right. Good. This is really interesting. Okay. Yeah. You're using those as a mulch, is that, Deborah? Onion, tomato leaves, and onions and garlic. I think I like to grow a lot of perennial onions as well around my garden, and I think that helps. Deter, confuse certain insects because of the smells that they have. Oregano and marjoram, thyme, those sort of Mediterranean herbs again also have a very good, strong aroma and can be very good in the garden. And you'll find your equivalents as well for your climate. Yeah. Great. Yeah, okay, yeah, so jack beans, things that create a lot of biomass as they grow. So actually your maize as well, it gives you a lot of biomass. There's a lot left over, isn't there, that you can use. So it's about valuing all of these things and returning them back to the soil in the right way so that they have this reinforcing impact. And we observe and interact, we learn, we treat everything as a bit of an experiment, and we can share what we learn with our people in our local group and with groups that we're networked with. Well, I wondered about, let's go back and have a summary and see if any if we want to comment or jump in on any of the points that come up in this. This was the presentation we started off with right at the beginning of the course, and we reminded that permaculture, we're trying to explore the relationships and understand the relationships between every element in an ecosystem. That land-based, water-based, when we see the tree, we don't just see the fruits, we see the roots, we see the relation to the tree as a habitat, we see how the tree relates to and incorporates the different ecosystems around it. Permaculture tried to make us think in a holistic way and to see the ongoing dynamics of living systems. So again, Tesfahan talked about the succession being such an important idea, and that's in syntropic agroforestry. And succession is like, again, seeing that you're part of an ongoing process. So rather than just having a field, bare field, maize, bare field, maize, bare field, maize, as your sequence of crops, is how do we use this succession to build something that's ever more complex and has three-dimensional yields, which slowly becomes ever more complex. Okay. We said that permaculture was built on ethics, unifying ideas that bring us together. And our first statement in permaculture is that there is change, that nature never stands still, that time's always moving ahead, and therefore we have to work with it. We can't just keep behaving in the same way because there's change, the seasons, the cycles. We're now moving into where we're seeing political change, economic change, climate change. That's going to change our food systems. It's going to change our economic systems. How do we work with this process of change? This was the key question that I said to you back in January. So that when we summarize our ethics with the care of the earth, care of the people, and this idea of fair share, that we all work to meet our own needs first, but we retain some kind of a surplus which we reinvest to build relationships with other people and to build our relationship with the natural world. That's the core of what permaculture is saying. And we have to operate to be successful in the long term. We have to try and operate within these ethics and understand them. So this was our opening lesson. And this is kind of the closing lesson to really cement that into your minds. Bill Mollison. Bill didn't really invent something. It's that he observed and he learned from the traditional systems, from his ancestors, from what nature told him. And he said to us, we have to work with nature. We're not fighting against it. It's not a battle. We want to assist, not impede natural developments. So nature's changing, the succession, it's moving forward. We have to work with it. If you want to clear your land back to bare soil each year, you're fighting against nature. And Bill's saying that's not what we're doing in permaculture. That's not the lesson that we've learned. He said, the problem is the solution. It works both ways. We're looking all the time as permaculture designers to make the smallest input, which creates the biggest output. So if what we're doing takes a lot of time and energy and motion, we're not doing it right. So there's our challenge. So we have to think, we have to observe and interact to say, where's the tipping point? How do we do a small amount of input that creates a big change? Bill reminded us that the yield of a system is theoretically unlimited. So you might just, there's your little field of maize or your little field of cassava, but imagine the rainforest, imagine Mabira forest, imagine, the mangrove swamps, imagine what nature can do all by itself. And maybe there's always room to add another species. Maybe there's always room to add another yield. Bill says we haven't yet found the upper limit to what an ecosystem can do. So the idea of there being shortages is a lack of our own imagination. It's a lack of our own design. Now, it's easy to say, but obviously harder to achieve. But these are very challenging, stimulating ideas. He said everything gardens. That means everything in some way is manipulating and changing its own environment, creating the conditions it needs. That's the dynamic of what nature is doing. Now, we have such a challenge because the climate change problem is happening faster than what nature can adapt to. So we're going to have to think and learn continuously to help this process on. Otherwise, we're all going to struggle. So I'm not pretending this is easy, but this is we have to go back. This is our rule book. So there's a sequence of 3 photos. We've got that Western monoculture system. It's a field with one crop in it. We've removed nature. We've removed all the trees. We've removed all the wild animals. There's nowhere left for the birds. We've turned it into a field. So he's saying there's going to be stepping stones. We're going to move through conservation farming, agroforestry, syntropic agroforestry, diversification. Let's call that transitional or conservation farming. Is we're moving away from the monoculture, away from the bare ground, away from the simplified systems, and we're heading towards permaculture, which is maybe 70% of our cropland is forage systems, semi-wild systems made out of the plants, the trees, the shrubs that help us meet our needs and meet the need of the nature around us. So understand that we're in this process of, if we are to come together as humanity to save ourselves, to save the planet, whatever our ecosystem is, we have to understand that we're all going to have to be involved in ecosystems restoration. That becomes our job. It's the most important thing that we can do. And that means moving away from monoculture back to something that looks much more like a natural system and in which we can interact with that to meet our needs. So we're kind of moving away from agriculture. We're moving away from monoculture and we're trying to get back to something much more complex. And that's going to be a global strategy to us to go forward. Now, I've got a lot of thoughts on this, and I've touched on this in the lessons previously, but here's the key idea is, I don't think the leadership to help us achieve these changes, it's not going to come from the West. It's not going to come from the United States. It's not going to come from the United Kingdom or the European Union. We are fully invested in monoculture. We're fully invested in the oil economy, cars and air conditioning. There's an energy shortage in the UK right now because it's so hot, our solar panels aren't working. So they're turning on coal-powered stations, coal power stations to make electricity, the most dirty, polluting form of energy, so that people can run air conditioning. It's the thing that caused the climate crisis. We're now using it to, anyway. This is the journey we're on, guys. And I see us all as leaders in our own way. And I'm telling you, new ideas, change comes from edges, not from the center. So you're at the margins. We're all at, in some way, at the economic, social, geographic margins of society. I might live in the first world, but I don't have money. I'm not an influential person in the mainstream. I live out in the rural areas in a small village, and but I think I can affect more change in the world because I'm not vested in the status quo. So and that's why I'm so interested, and I think the value of working with refugees and displaced people, because the mainstream world has forgotten about them, and they, in meeting their own needs, might inspire the rest of the world to go forward. Just honestly what I think. So yeah, there's the transition expressed in pictures, and there's expressed in a bar chart, and it's talking about energy in and energy out. Bill wanted us to think about concepts and themes in design. He said, don't jump straight into the detail. You still need to think about this bigger picture and how you're working, and understand your place in this thing. We looked at some clever people from different places and sources to find our inspiration. A designer here in the West, a guy called Buckminster Fuller, he said this: the world teeters on the threshold of a revolution. If it's a bloody revolution, it's over. That means if we all go to war, Ukraine and Russia and America and China, and I don't know what it is that they're trying to do right now, it seems crazy, but that's going to finish us off. It's going to affect our food supply, it's going to affect our energy supply, and it's going to mean that we're not addressing the climate problem. We've got to get away from conflict. We have to find ways to work together. He said the alternative is a revolution in design science. Design science produces so much performance per unit to resource invested to take care of all human needs. In other words, minimum input for maximum return. We do that through design. So permaculture is a design science, and it's the only way the only thing that I know of that can lead us away from conflict. Because if your farming systems start drying up and you all try and come to the UK, we're going to be there with our pitchforks going, hey, you can't come here, we can't. It's going to be challenges. The same vice versa. So we have to get away from conflict. And the only way we're going to do that is by seeing things really differently. So let's go back to our First Nation, the voices of the First Nation, of the indigenous people from North America. Chief Seattle was someone who spoke very wisely. Man did not weave the web of life. He is merely a strand in it. So again, very much this Western point of view, which is spread around the world, is we think it's all about us. We think we're the only ones that matter. The earth, the biosystem exists to support us, rather than understanding, no, we're part of it. And whatever he does to the web, he does himself. To harm the earth is to heap contempt upon the Creator. Contaminate your own bed, and you will one day suffocate in your own waste. Will we drown in plastic bottles? Will we kill our soil with the toxins that we're producing? Will we change the atmosphere with the smoke and the fumes from our industrial lifestyles? Our ancestors warned us of this. How do we create a society and a community where we all now begin to value these things? We need to listen to our ancestors and understand they gave us the way forward. We have all these clever technologies, and we have our mobile phones and our cars and our helicopters. The question is, how can we use them to reconnect ourselves to the web of life, and not to use them as tools of warfare and of domination? These are the lessons we have to learn, guys. So we had this little summary that came from it. The prime directive of permaculture is the only ethical decision is to take responsibility for our existence and that of our children. It begins by taking care of ourselves, our loved ones, our immediate community. The principle of cooperation. Cooperation, not competition, is the very basis of future survival and of existing natural systems. Integrate, don't segregate. We have to find ways to work together. How do we rebuild trust? Our trust has been so damaged between us because, I don't know, politicians, whatever, teach us to see each other as rivals where we're not. We have to understand we're all here together. We're reminded of the ethics of permaculture: care of the earth, care of the people, setting limits to consumption. Bill Morrison wanted to think about Birch's 6 principles of natural systems. Nothing in nature grows forever. There is a constant cycle of growth and decay. So, and in understanding that constant cycle, we understand that resources become incorporated into living systems. As living systems utilize them, and then they break down and they become available again. There's no waste. Continuation of life depends on the maintenance of global biogeochemical systems. So we're reminded of these global systems, the atmosphere, the movement of water vapor, weather systems are related to the forests, related to the soils, related to our own actions. Probability of extinction is greatest when the species density is either very high or very low. So when there's very, very, very many species, they become so specialist, they need very exact conditions. And when there's a few, we're back to the monocultures that can fall over very quickly. So it's as we interact with these complex systems, we open up new opportunities for growth and for development. Ability to survive and reproduce is often reliant on 1 or 2 key factors in a complex web of relations. There's underlying key things which hold the whole thing together. Often that's the water cycle, because life happens in water. It's soil building, because without soil, everything else fails. So we need to focus on the really key factors and get them right. So in permaculture, there's definitely a hierarchy of things that we want to think about. You've got to trap and hold as much water as you can, and you have to build soil. Once you're doing those, other options open themselves up. Our ability to change the face of the earth increases at a faster rate than our ability to foresee the consequences of change. Well, that's what we've done, isn't it? Collectively, as humanity, we've done all these big engineering projects and we haven't understood their long-term effects. Now we're starting to feel them. We've cut down the equatorial rainforest. What were we thinking? We've made massive changes to the ecology of our planet without really thinking about it. Living organisms are not only a means, but ends. In addition to their instrumental value to humans and other organisms, they have an intrinsic worth. In other words, we have to value every species. Just because it's edible or not edible doesn't mean then we either are interested or not interested in it. Understand that they're all living organisms are in some way a means of their own. They are an important part of the system. This is your mission statement as a permaculture teacher, okay? Bear this in mind. A policy responsibility to relinquish power. The role of a beneficial authority is to return function and responsibility to life and people. If successful, no further authority is needed. The role of successful design is to create a self-managed system. So if you set up a permaculture system that depends on you to be the guru, the maestro that's all in charge of it, then you failed. It can't, your role as a leader, your role as a permaculture facilitator is to return function to the system. So Tesfahan, you're returning function by building your syntropic agroforestry. And you need to pass on the skills to maintain that to the people so that if something happens to you, the system doesn't go down, or you don't turn into this, some kind of dictator. We're trying to create self-managing systems. We're trying to relinquish power. That means design a system until it doesn't need us. We can then just enjoy being part of that system. So we have to have humility as leaders and pioneers in permaculture. We have to have humility. We're not going to become the great leader. We're just contributing to this process. We are returning function. That's our key responsibility. There's different kinds of resources, we are reminded. There are some that increase as we use them. So let's say, to use Tesfahan's example, he's chopping and dropping, he's pruning his overstory to feed the soil. Well, if you do that correctly, the tree becomes more healthy and you end up with more resource. Those are the kinds of resources we want to work with. There are some that are unaffected by use. There are those which degrade if not used. So imagine the fruits on a tree. Well, if you don't pick them, they just rot. So you'd be wise to harvest and dry them, preserve them. There are those that are reduced by use. So there's coppicing, that kind of management of trees so we get more, and then there's cutting the trees down, and then there's no trees left. We do not want to work with resources that get reduced as we use them. Imagine how our oil reserve, our gas reserves, our coal reserve, these fossil fuel reserves, they're being used up. We clearly can't rely on them forever into the future. And there are those that pollute or destroy other resources if used. Well, there we go. We know all about those. So there's very different types of resources, and you can see those first three are the ones that we need to value in permaculture. Use and value natural resources and services, we told you. We compared some systems, an industrial system with factories and production and transport and processed food and chicken factories producing an egg. The egg might look the same, but it's completely different from one that's been produced within a natural system. Permaculture is going to be clever and try and design systems where, in this case, a chicken, it can meet its own need through foraging. And if we understand the needs of the chicken, we can design a system where it can fully function and meet its own needs. So there's a really good a comparison between two completely different types of system. And on the left, the Western industrial model, that's the one that's breaking down, that's the one that's failing. We're only left with the natural systems model, and that's where we have to go. Bill said everything gardens. That when we're gardening, we do things like pruning, digging, mowing, selecting plants into assemblies. Actually, in a natural system, those things happen anyway. Browsing animals do pruning. So when you're pruning a tree, you're actually replicating the animal, the action of a browsing animal. Digging to turn over the soil, allow new plants to get established. Well, there are lots of individual animals that do that. Sometimes there's a rainfall or a landslide or a fire or animals digging, creates bare soil, allows a chance for something else to get started. Mowing, that's like grazing. Plant assembly, well, we could choose plants. Tesfahun, you gave us a really good example of the plants you've chosen in your syntropic system. Or we could just throw all the seeds in the air and let them figure it out for themselves. As a designer, we can speed that process up by making selections, but nature does it in its own way through random assembly. So farming and growing is really replicating what happens in nature. And that's why when we observe and interact nature, we can bring those ideas into our productive systems and create gardens that have the functionality and the resilience of those natural systems. These are the fundamental ideas of permaculture. You have to carry these in your head as we go forward. We're reminding that ecosystems are dynamic. That means they're constantly changing. They're never staying still. There's a random assembly because nature blows seeds, birds drop the seeds, animals get stuck on their fur. And as those elements jostle together, evolution allows them to find their niche, to find how they fit together. And as ecosystems develop, we get 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 trophic levels. The things that feed on things, that feed on other things, that create energy levels within those systems. So when we start off with bare soil, we might have a very simple 1 or 2 trophic levels. But as we build that, it becomes 6, 7, 8, 9, much more complex. These are the key elements or processes that we see going on in ecosystems. We have to learn from these and bring this into our knowledge and into our design approach as permaculture designers. This diagram is encouraging us to think about the different kind of ecosystems. We've got a forested steep slope. As the slope becomes slightly less steep, we've got different kinds of plants, different kinds of assemblies. We've got water courses. Water moves quickly on the steeper slopes, slower on the low slopes. We get wetlands and bogs. We're encouraged to think about the 3-dimensional shape of ecosystems. So look here, we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 layers. The canopy of the tree. We can see climber going up the tree. We've got the ground layer. So let's think about the variability of different species and how they might stack together in a 3-dimensional way. We're encouraged to think about how wildlife, how birds, animals might move through that system, and to think about how they interact with those different layers and the different habitats within that. And when we see a landscape and we see it for all of its different habitats, ecosystems, niches, then that's where we understand how the diversity of species can each find its place within that. We're reminded again of our trophic levels, that there's always the greatest amount of biomass at the first trophic level. It means trophic level means energy level, and that first energy level is always going to be living plants and dead plants. So we might have 10,000 kgs of plants, and then our second trophic level in this simplistic diagram is grasshoppers. So for every 10,000 kilos of grass, we're going to have 1,000 kilos of grasshoppers. We might have 100 kilos of frogs that eat the grasshoppers. We've got 10 kilos of fish that eat the frogs. And we've got 1 kilo of human that eats the fish. So you can see, as we go up each trophic level, there's an energy loss. It's given off as heat, movement, entropy. And we're also told that nature's more complex than just this simple pyramid. It's more of a food web. There's relationships and interactions between the different trophic levels. Here, this person could feed at maybe 4 of the different trophic levels. So, we're also encouraged to think about the feedback and the relationships between those elements in that system. So here we go. Look, if we come along and our crop is the grass, and we get rid of the fish and the frogs because we're not interested in them, then what we have is lots of grasshoppers, and that makes us think, I need pesticide. The only reason you need pesticide is you got no frogs and you got no fish. You need the things that eat the grasshoppers. The grasshopper's not a pest. You made them a pest because you removed the higher levels of the trophic pyramid. This is central to our thing in permaculture. There's not such a thing as too many crickets, only not enough turkeys. What's going to harvest? Remember, we've got a self-regulating system. If you've got to run around chasing grasshoppers all day, hey, that's not a good use of your time. Get some turkeys, get some chickens, get some lizards, get some frogs. Create the habitat, create the niches for those species that complete the trophic pyramid. This is our key lesson in permaculture. Everything's connected through these energy relationships. And look, at every transaction, everything that gets eaten, it creates some manure. And that manure is going back to the soil that feeds the system again. So we also have to value these interactions because they're creating an ever more complex debris field, detritus, which gives us more diversity in the soil. Don't forget, there's 5 trophic levels within the soil before we start getting to the crickets and the frogs. And that diversity is supported by the diversity above. As above, so below. It's all connected. Water is a product of healthy landscapes. We can understand the shape of a landscape and think about how that landscape is going to harvest and gather together water. We're going to have tiny little rivulets and tributaries on the higher slopes, and slowly they're going to come together. We saw our branching patterns, didn't we? And see how they then form a river which then drains out of that system. When we study nature, what we realize is the life within the system actually all acts to slow down the flow of that water. Beavers dam rivers and send floods sideways. Different kinds of actions also create wetlands and storages of water. As permaculture designers, we can make interactions. Rather than seeing our water, look, here's the water going, finding the quickest route out of the system, draining away. What we want to do is to make it do the longest journey that it can. Make that water do work. Slow it down, spread it sideways, sink into the ground, and see how it's going to hydrate the whole of the landscape, not just drain out through it. So think again how the challenges of whole communities might come together to do good water management. We're going into a time where we're going to have heavy deluges of rain and we're going to have long droughts. We've got to work together to build these systems. We've got to see how we can trap and hold water throughout a whole landscape. In chapter 3, Bill made us think about methods of design. He said, permaculture design is a system of assembling conceptual, material, and strategic components in a pattern which functions to benefit life in all its forms. It seeks to provide a sustainable and secure place for living things on this earth. In other words, imagine how to build a system like this. We need the concepts, the ideas. We need the materials and the components to identify where to put our dams, to construct them, to whatever our strategies are to catch and hold that water. That was our first introductory thought from Bill. He said functional design sets out to achieve specific ends, and the prime directive for function is every component of a design should function in many ways. Each element should support multiple functions. Every essential function should be supported by many components. So if water trapment is our function, look in this landscape how we've got lots of elements that support that. We've got lots of dams, we've got careful water catchment and management, we've got forests, we've got woodland, we've got an interconnected system. A flexible and conceptual design can accept progressive contributions from any direction and be modified in the light of experience. Design is a continuous process guided by the feedback of its own evolution. So imagine a water catchment system like this. It might take several years to build. It might take lots of different people to contribute to it. They're going to design it bit by bit, observe and learn, and find out and continuously improve it. So think about it as an ongoing, open-ended process. Permaculture design doesn't end, it only begins. Continuous process guided by the feedback of its own evolution. Allow your design to evolve. Whatever you thought at the beginning, that'll only be the beginning. You'll learn so much as you implement it. Analysis. Design by listing the characteristics of a component. Self-regulation. Outputs, yields, and benefits are all resources to be explored. Pollutants are an unused output of a system. Inputs and input needs and demands create extra work if not designed for. So if you're working hard for the system, you need to improve your design. In the process of doing design, here's our central thing, that we want to create a design which is a beneficial assembly of components in their proper relationships. And we're going to think about the site, water, earth, landscape, climate, plants. We're going to think about energy, technologies, structures, sources, connections. We're going to think about abstract components, timing, data, ethics, values. And we're going to think about social components, legal, people, culture, trade, finance. All of these things have got to fit into our design. And our design is a beneficial assembly of components in their proper relationships. So we've got to think about people, we've got to think about energy, we've got to think about these abstract things, and it's all got to relate to the reality of the site. Analysis. Design by listing the characteristics of components. Make connections between components. We looked at the chicken. We thought about its inputs and outputs. We realized that the chicken has lots of behaviors. It does certain things like scratching and turning. They like to roost. Their manure has particular properties. They'll peck out insects. They'll eat rotten fruit. These are all functions that we can harvest. And if we can observe and learn from the element that we're looking at, be it a chicken or a cow or a goat or anything, understand its inputs and outputs and work with them in a creative way so that everything gets to both to receive from the system and give back. We're building a self-managing system. Bill showed us, gave us these lovely pictures of transition from a sort of monoculture farm to a polyculture farm, to where we could see grazing animals are now under trees, and we've got intensive growing around the settlements and whatever. All those things that we've talked about, and thinking about this transition away from monoculture to much more complex systems. Here's some design. This is the same farm in plan, and we see how we're moving from quite a simple system where we've just got an orchard in one place, we've got grazing in another place, we've got vegetables in a third place, and the poultry in a fourth place. They're all separate. In this design, he's brought them all together. We've got an orchard with chicken and bee forage and other beneficial interplantings, another orchard forage system. We've got a chicken tractor between the two, and lovely other elements of diversity. Remember, you could always add another yield to a system. Have you got bees? Have we got ground nesting birds? Have we got, I don't know. The only limit is your imagination. So observation, design by expanding your direct observation on site. Have a childlike, non-selective approach. Allow yourself to ask fundamental questions. You know, like they say, no question's too stupid. If you don't know, you don't know. So ask. Set up a test. Find out for yourself. Go to the library. Go online. There's so many ways. Have a thematic approach. Think about water. From where it arrives to where it leaves, to how you use it, how you recycle it, in every way. Energy, food, people, shelter, a thematic approach to design. Have an instrumental approach, collect data, measure the gradients, winds. You know, the more information you have, the better you can informed you can be. It says have an experiential approach. That means observe and interact. Try things out. You know, and we talked about, if you try something out at a small scale and it doesn't work, you learn. If you try something out at a big scale and it doesn't work, you go bust. There's a difference. So it's about operating at the right scale. So our observation might begin with a site survey. Make value-free, non-interpretive notes. Just say, what is it? There's a tree. I saw a bee, there's a bird, there's a rock. Collect data. Keep a record of what you see. Take pictures and videos, sketches, notes. Remember that you're on this journey of succession, and at some point you might want to look back and see the journey you've gone on. That might help you see your way forward. Confirm or deny any speculations through research. Local records, local memory, data. Look for longer term trends. So you're going to make some observations and make some notes, and then you're going to go, oh, I wonder why is that like that? Is that like that because of this reason or that reason? Can we find out? Ask questions, ask your colleagues. This is why we're working together, right? Examine the evidence and build strategies in line with your observations. Deduction from nature. So we've had our principles of natural systems. We talked about catch and store energy. We talked about the edge effect, diversity, stacking, the three-dimensional thing that Chesterton was saying. We talked about functions and elements. We talked about microclimates, succession, and beneficial relationships. These are that's the raw material of nature, and that's what we're working with. So a design as a selection of options or pathways based on decisions. Anyway. Look, there we go. I can't go through all. We're going to run out of time. I just wanted to really in our design considerations, we want to think about these are all concepts that we've talked about: zones, sectors, gradients, guilds, succession. Ask yourself, do I really understand these terms? Can I deepen my understanding of this? When you come to start teaching about permaculture and you're explaining these things to other people, it really challenges you to deepen your own understanding so that you can communicate it to other people. Okay, there's my summary from Bill, and I'm going to stop it there. We've just got a few minutes left. We'll have a little go round. Please just give us a little bit of feedback and tell me something about what you've got from this course so far, and going forward, do you agree with this idea about having some sessions on particular practical topics, and or anything else you'd like to have? So give me your closing thoughts. And we've had a generalized chat and we've shared our experiences in the first half, and then I've just tried to focus again by bringing us back to Bill's theory, which I think is ever so useful. And as a lead tutor, I want you to go away with these ideas very much in your mind. So Gerald, I'm going to throw you into the hot water as I always do, and you can start us off. But tell us something I think that you've learned, or on reflection you've got from this process, and a suggestion for next steps.
Thanks, Steve. And sure, I should say that that was a whole an entire PDC summarized in probably 2 hours. Well done on that, drum roll. And from a co-facilitator point of view, and just as you said, from a reflective kind of learning perspective, it's been a whole learning curve. And I will start also by congratulating the team for really having made it through the entire 24 series. And to ourselves, the organizers or the people behind the curtains, or it's been awesome even to learn from the team. More so always, but even today, it's been really awesome to get to hear from our participants taking on the mantle and delivering many sessions. Tesfahum, Simon on mushrooms. It is one piece of feedback that I believe we've received, and we can comfortably pat ourselves on the shoulders and say, yes, there has been progress. We are happy, and don't quote me wrong that I just mentioned the two of them, but Caroline, Nicholas, Deborah, and everyone, even those who are not right now in the, online. It's been a wonderful team. And as the next step, so going forward, 110% into the suggestion that we do sort of thematic or specific detailed sessions. We can agree on where and when to have them, and obviously where is online, but then maybe when, maybe if we are going to do it this time once in 2 weeks or weekly, or that will also depend on the members. And I think that's also a discussion we can hold on the platform. Please share the link, the sign up link for the WhatsApp group chat with as many colleagues within your networks as possible, so that we have that platform active, and it will also form part of our communication. Otherwise, Thank you so much. It's been a learning curve even on our side. Thank you so much. And thanks, Steve, for really holding on to this and leading the entire process. Over to you, Steve. Anyone actually, I think it's not going to be optional, unfortunately, this time around. We would really love to hear from each and every one of us. And yeah, in terms of research, you're a representative sample of the whole team that we've had through the 24 weeks. Uh, it's been fluctuating. Then it's been, you know, how do I place it? We've been having different numbers on different days, but then dynamics that come with remote and everything. So right away, we'll start with Nicholas, flow on to Carol, then last but not Deborah. Over to you, Nicholas. Yes, Nicholas. Okay. It seems his connection is not as good. Could we go to Carol as we wait for Nicholas to get a proper connection, or as his connection stabilizes?
Thank you, Gerald. Thank you so much. It's indeed been a nice experience, and I kept on hearing about Sector 39, and as I told you, my first PDC was taught by fall. So when this opportunity arose, of course, I grabbed it, with 4 hands, if it's possible to say so. I've enjoyed the lessons, and as I kept on saying, Steve has a way of simplifying the most complex, things that anybody could understand, especially for some of us who are very poor in chemistry and physics. But when we walk into Steve's class, you find everything. Everything gets so simplified and so practical that you get to understand it. And I think that is the model I would use, because I'm training village mamas, some who have not even gone to school. So I would say that it's been a great blessing for me to be able to join this class. Yes, we are going to spread the permaculture goal, because it is all about abundance. It is all about food and nutrition security, because we are promoting monoculture, but we're promoting all many different crops in the same vegetable garden, gardens in the same forest. And this makes sure that it's always something that the household, the family can be able to get from their garden. For me, that is the key thing with permaculture.
Okay, thank you, Caroline, and a really nice, thoughtful feedback, and thank you for that. I mean, I think that is what I try to do. So it's great. Is to try and make these. It is complicated. I'm trying to bring it alive and to see how. Yeah, as you say, to try and make it understandable. Yeah, Tessahun, you have your hand up.
Yeah, I do.
Please, yeah.
Yes. Is everybody hearing me? Yeah. Okay. Can I continue? Okay. Yeah. I say thank you, Sector 39 and the lead tutor, Steve, and the co-host, Gerald, too. Really, because for your restless and daily working to make us the soldier, to make this nature, our living planet, to make it the better place for others too. Really, I am happy as a trainer to be all of the time with you and what I can to support you too. That, yes, that makes me happy always. So, topic, I'm happy. I learned a lot of things, and also only learning is not enough for everybody here. When in a permaculture, daily work can make us innovator, the best trainer, and also the one who can change the living planet. So always the people ask, really, we are happy on your work, Tesfahon. Where are you based? People's asking me, Tesfahon, where are you? We are happy on your job, they said. They don't only hearing about me, but they are seeing what I am doing. It is very small for me, but it is a big change for them. So even sharing a positive idea for pupils can make a big impact. So each and every person can try, can do what he can with this permaculture design principle. So as just I'm seeing Steve, he's going as much as enough to be old. He have left maybe 20 or 30 or more years. But as a young generation, we have to put our fingerprint. So please, everyone can do what you can. And I never stop to follow Steve. Really, what you are doing, it makes me a big open-hearted, open-minded person. Really, I am happy. Not pupils who are open-minded pupils exist here more longer, because everybody knows that pupils can die or whatever thing, but your job, your footprint, your fingerprint is never die. I believe that. Already you put on our mind a big things. I am happy with that. A big followers already created. Not only followers, the practical person is already created. So really, thank you, Steve. Thank you all the team. It's a big chance for us, really. Bye. See you.
Thanks, Tasfahun. It's really inspiring. It's humbling to hear. And yes, the keywords that I can also pass on to the team, please, let's work as much as possible to leave a footprint. Let's leave a trail. Thank you so much, Tasfahun. Over to you. Is it Deborah? You sound ready and you've already unmuted. Then we'll end up with Simon. Unfortunately, we've lost Steve, but he will be, I'm sure he will be logging on back. Deborah?
Okay.
Yes, and don't worry, we're making the record, so I'll pass it on to Steve.
Okay, thank you so much for the time, for the interesting PDC. I think some of the participants have never attended such a PDC. So I would like to take my appreciation to Steve Jones and you, Brother Gerald, for the effort. For the effort you've taken to plan for this PDC, of which really, as for us Tapa in Eastern Uganda, I know we have been impacting our communities on knowledge of permaculture. But now we have learned more, our participants have learned more, we have experienced from Caroline Kahun. I've heard it with voice, I've been chatting him, I've really heard from him what he's doing in Ethiopia. For building this network, we do really appreciate Steve Jones for the support he has given to us in Eastern Uganda, because really the communities now are benefiting through the knowledge and experience we have impacted them. Now, on the side of the next planning purposes, I would like to take this opportunity to also would like to share with us the team, the participant. Let's continue building up our team. Let's continue networking and sharing. Let it not be the end of our sharing today, but let's keep on sharing with each other, building networks, connecting to each other, sharing experiences, challenges we share together. And also kindly with this, I would like also to you, our co-host and a co-host, to help us plan at least a physical PDC for Eastern Uganda also, because here in Eastern Uganda, we are working with the communities whereby some people or some youth, some communities have not attended school or classes. So we would welcome, maybe we plan also the physical PDC for others who have not attended this PDC. Even though we are training them, but we need to join our hands together to plan for also physical PDCs for these people. So that some of them may not go and make mistakes through the experiences we have given them online, but they also need to see other visitors coming to teach them, to learn from other countries, whereby Caroline can be from the other side. Thank you so much for the knowledge, for the experiences we have shared. I thank really Principal Steve Jones for the knowledge. Really, TESO is now moving. Like we really very, very, very thank you for what he has done to TESO. We didn't even expect this to happen to TESO, but as he told to me how to do permaculture, how to carry permaculture, it has really impacted, and we are going to impact more. And the results are coming more than ever before. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Long live Steve Jones, long live Brother Gerald, for what you have done to TESO, that is TESO Advanced Permaculture Association. Thank you so much, everyone, and all the participants.
Wow. Thanks, Deborah. It's been great hearing from you. And however much the network has decided to misbehave towards the end, but at least it's been really, really great hearing from you, and those compliments and feedback. It really means a lot to the team. It really means a lot to us and the entire team. Wow. Okay, and as regarding the PDC, the on-ground PDC or the physical PDC, this is a conversation that we are going to carry on. We can't guarantee anything as of now, but should, as we proceed, we are hopeful it will be one of the considerations or one of the steps that could be part of the next steps. So let's, fingers crossed, let's keep, but then we are also, as I keep emphasizing, we are empowering the team. And I'm happy to know that you're already doing the trainings. Yeah. So we also look forward to fully rolling out the academy, where we'll be able to fully empower you to the level of taking on the full PDC. And this will be a fully recognized PDC, fully accredited. So please keep in touch and keep on the platform. We are working on that. And for more discussions will be coming on. Okay. I'm still checking with Steve to see whether he'll be able to log in back and give us bits of the closing thoughts. But then let's proceed. We have the recording that I'll pass on to him. Yes, Simon Peter, also known as Simon Petelo. Over to you.
Yes. Thank you, Mr. Gerald. Nice to meet you. Nice to meet everyone who has been attending the PDC session, though it has been so challenging in one or the other way in terms of acquiring the data and so forth. But all in all, the Almighty God has permitted us to come to an Omega. So, best to the best of my knowledge, Simon has been leading a part. Simon has been leading a part, and a part is all about Abatai Permaculture Action for Development. So a part is a son of Tapa. Really, members of APAD are so great with the knowledge, with the skills, with the values and the norms of the permaculture that they have acquired from the learning section. They are so happy about it. They have gotten some change. From the time they started learning permaculture, they were not like the way they are at a moment. The other day, you saw one of the practical aspect of APAD where they created that Kalorna stove, and the members were so happy and it looked so nice for the first time for APAD as a group to make it. And they were like, more knowledge, more experiences, more skills, more values would be produced to the best of their knowledge. And they are promising to me that food production, permaculture skills, permaculture values and ethics and principles all would be at their tips, and they are gonna practice it, and they will continue transforming the communities that they are living in. They want to see that at least the poverty line that people are crying at their respective communities where they are staying should be minimized. And they are saying at least one at a moment, Sector 39 through Principal Steve Jones and co-host Gerald, they say at least once in a while organize for them a physical PDC, whereby those who are not well equipped with the accent of Steve Jones who will be in position to attain and grab more and more skills about the permaculture. So on my side as Simon, I would only advocate that let it not be the ending stone. Let it not be the last for us to keep on exchanging views, knowledge, ideas, values, ethics, principles, and so forth of permaculture. It should be a routine. It should be our daily food. It should be our daily practice, our daily practical part of each and every time that we really need to equip our people with the skills and I would at one moment be in Kenya. I would at one moment be in Ethiopia. I would at one moment be in Congo. Why? Permaculture should take me to those areas, and then we exchange our knowledge and skills. So we appreciate for the effort, we appreciate for the resources, we have appreciated for the time taken in to bring the course onto us. May the Almighty God bless Steve Jones, let it bless Gerald, let it bless Deborah, let it bless everybody who has been sharing the same issues on how to transform the community, to transform the health status of the soil, to transform the climatic conditions of my area or their areas, and each and everything and to see that women are more targeted in the perspective aspect of food production, as well as the youth. We are thanking you and the whole entire team of Sector 39 for the little resources, for the little time and the effort that you have given to us. I remain as Simon, chairperson of APAD. May the Almighty bless you. Thank you.
Okay, wow. Thank you, Simon. And I don't think we have any better way to end it. Thank you, everyone, once again. And thank you for not only sacrificing your time, but also sacrificing the, resources to purchase the data, and, to sacrifice even what you would have been doing during the time. And believe me not, what you've learned or what you're doing, as Simon has said, is going to take you places. A testimony to this, I've done trainings with brothers in different countries. And during one of the trainings with one team from Southern Sudan, our brothers in the north in settlements, they told me, Gerard, yes, should we ever go back up there, and should you ever wish to visit us, we'll welcome you like a minister. So the work you're doing is not small. You're improving lives. You're saving actually lives. And even at this opportune time, this is really, really a necessity everywhere, climate change. As Steve said, here in the UK, we are experiencing a drought. It's always been raining. And when it rains, it doesn't come as easy. Canada, one of the biggest area, if you've done a bit of history, the Canadian prairies have not received rain. It's one of the major source or supply of food to the world, and etc., etc. So the work you're doing is really, really timely. Let's keep on doing that. And please, no matter the challenges, don't give up. Challenges will be the resources, obviously, and well knowing that we are working with vulnerables, with rural areas, with people who we are uplifting. You're not expecting much from them, but still do what you're supposed to do. Mother Nature will always find a way of, paying you back. I could talk till the cows go back to feeding, because I know they are back now from feeding, but then we'll end it up at this point. I'll be reaching out to the team, and I will be communicating. Just for whom we will forward you the link to the WhatsApp group, and anyone else, please share that WhatsApp so that we can discuss the next steps. One of the bits I'm also suggesting to Steve, that for members who have attended over and above, let's say 70%, we could work out a way of you submitting your profiles. Oh, thanks, Tesfahum. We could work out a way of you submitting your practical profiles, so that probably as a way of recognizing your efforts, we could have this on top of, if we document your profile, your practicals, we could have this translate into a PDC. So as I said, it's going to be a discussion, and on condition that we'll be able to document or have a record of your practical sessions. All right, so we'll keep that discussion going. Hold on for me. I will add Tesfahum to the group, and then, yeah, unless we have any last minute burning suggestion or proposal, otherwise we'll end it at this point. Any last minute? All right, so we'll end it here. It's been a pleasure, and we'll inform you of the next steps. Or have a good night.
Bye-bye, everybody. Good night.
Bye-bye. Gerald, na jokan.
Bye-bye, aparatu na joka. Okay.
Abunera nyame maido, yalama noi.
Yalama. Joka, it's Simon.
Yes.
Oh, Tesfahun, how do you say good night?
Caroline.
Malcolm shit.
Malcolm
Manoi.
Wow.
Okay, guys. Good night.
Welcome shit.
Okay, please.
Yes, we hope to be in Ethiopia.
Oh, yeah,
Yes,
sure.
Ethiopia.
And it will be a pleasure. Let's keep in touch. I've put off the recording. Let's keep in touch, and sure, it's always a pleasure. It's,
yes,
brilliant to hear you people. Maybe this off record, I'll be reaching out. Yeah, Simon? No, we've lost him. Deborah?
yes.
Yeah, there is...
I'm getting you.
There is a conference we are likely to get you involved into. We are still working on, but it will be online. We will have a recording. We'll debrief you about it, and I'm happy you be a good representative for the Tapa and Eastern. It's going to be a permaculture conference, so it's going to be online, yeah. But then it will be very good publicity for the team. It will be very good. Put your team and everyone out there.
Wow, that sounds good.
Yeah, so it's still in the pipeline.
Okay.
Yeah, and we'll be debriefing. Okay.
Thank you so much.
And yeah, such will keep coming up. Yeah. So let's keep in touch. Tesfahum, please, greetings. Anytime en route, I think I will see how to stop by Ethiopia. Obviously, it's a common destination. most flights from here, obviously. So if I get a layover or something, let's see. Let's pray opportunities open up. But well done, well done. Simon.
Yes.
Well done too. Well done, guys. And thanks for that consistency and, participating. It always gives energy to us, and even Steve, I know the background discussions we've been having, when there is a tendency, when there is participation, when there is exchanges, that's what inspires us and even Steve himself. So really don't say, your participation or your contributions are going away unnoticed. We've been noticing. And most of all, Mother Nature yeah, or the heavens are also noticing. So it will be, there will always be a way it will come back. Yeah. Okay, guys, I know it's getting late there. Here is coming to 8, but it's still so bright. Let me show you something.
Okay. Hey. Gerald. Hey. Yeah.
Yeah, so it's 8 p.m., but because it's summer, the sun is still so bright, and
Okay.
it may start going down at about.
Is it mean morning there?
Pardon?
Is it morning?
No. It's evening. It's 8 p.m.
Yeah,
8 p.m.
Here,
but
okay.
but
Here it is 10 p.m.
It's
Okay.
what time?
10 p.m. Yeah.
10 p.m. So yeah, you're 2 hours ahead. Even Deborah and East Africa, the entire East Africa is 2 hours ahead. But then what I was showing you, because it's summer, the sun stays up to about 9 p.m. And when winter comes, by 4 p.m., it's already dark.
Okay.
So that's how tricky things are. All right, guys. Bye-bye for now. We'll catch up. Test for whom I've saved your number. Deborah, I think you're on the group now. So we have your number.
Yes.
Okay. Okay, we'll catch up. Good night. Good night.
Thank you so
Eyalama,
much.
how do you say good night in
Good night too. Good night too.
In Aiteso?
Akwarna Jokan.
Akwarna Jokai.
Yes.
Okay, Akwarna Jokai. Okay.
Yalama.